In order to become a legend in a sport, you got to beat the man to become the man. That's where we are right now in our sport of boxing. Tonight, we got two guys who, at this point in their careers, feel like they're the man. A guy in like Jamal Herring, who's finally captured the title after switching camps and taking his game to the next level. So he feels like he's finally made all the right choices. But then you have this young, stubborn, hungry, young kid who was an Olympic hopeful, who had already had his sights on the likes of Floyd Mayweather's, Willie Pep, Hopkins, Rocky Marciano. He wanted to be a legend. And tonight, in order to do that, in order to be the man, you got to beat the man. And the man right now is Jamal Herring in that weight class. What's up, fight fans? This is your boy, the real fight doctor, and we're about to get it popping on a special for all of you. We did this because we know you love talking some boxing, and especially on a Saturday. It's about to go down on the fight show. What's up? Check in time. I see my man from the School of Boxing. You guys are always representing. You know, we're about to get into some serious fight talk, brother. And it's going down the list from Canelo, Caleb Plant, Tank, and Rolly. It's going down, man. But tonight, in a couple of hours, two guys are going to go fisticuffs. And you know what we do here? I don't care if this is your first time and you never been here before. Welcome to the Fight Show. And what we do is we get it popping when it comes down to talking the sweet science from the inner circle of boxing, not just a talking head, but I'm about that life. Let me see who else out here in the field. My man, special brother from another, Paul Harbor from Australia. Thanks again for sending out our special love from around the globe, man. Special shouts out to you, the little tyke, the wifey, everybody over in Aussie. Represent the School of Boxing. What's up, brother? My man, Bobby Ade. Everything is good. Share that. Hey, what's up with your Alabama buddy? I can't wait to get into some serious fight talk. Bobby Ade, special shouts out to you, brother, down in Alabama. Alabama represented in that fight last week before. You know, it was a good, valiant effort. But what I'm going to get into today, man, is some fight talk and talk about, the styles, the roles that styles play. And I got my notepad because, when I go into my notes, it's going down. Yeah, if you think like a fighter, you are one. That's right. If you think like a fighter, then that algorithm is like you. I meet plenty of people. Some are computer heads. Some are those who are very tech savvy. They're very let's say engineer minded. But then you got people who think like a fighter. That's a great point, Sarah. It is extremely, that's a powerful thing. When you are a person, we always talk about casual fans, but when you realize the reality of casual fan is a person that can't get boxing from going through their heads. And I meet a lot of people in the business world, professional, who do not know anything about boxing. You would not believe it. And maybe you cross people too. But when you are from this world, and I always say the people who from the outside, they don't think like us because we are a different breed. Just say, if I say, I usually say this to my peers, that we are all species. It's not divided in races. You're divided by species. That's why you might see a Chinese cub with a Bohemian cub, or someone from Czechoslovakia with someone from Hong Kong. We're species, and you're comfortable around where you're comfortable. And in the fight game, you are a part of that world. And there are people who look at from the outside in and they just don't get it. You know, they get an idea, but we look at them and we say the same thing. I'm just versed to be able to be versed in many different areas, and I can actually appreciate no matter where you come from. But one thing I know, I'm not exchanging nothing for my brothers in the fight game. Special shouts out to the fight world at large. Let's get into some fight talk. I got some questions about these fights coming up. I'm gonna dive right in because you guys, what you say throughout the week is most important. Period. Point blank. So one of the questions right here was from my man Zaire 82. What is Joshua's biggest issue, in my opinion? The brothers from the School of Boxing, and the School of Boxing is a place of higher learning. When you're tired of fumbling around YouTube, you go over to the School of Boxing so you can really digest information so that it makes sense, the same way you did your English, your language arts, your mathematics, your science, your social studies. That's how we divvy up boxing the same way, and it's a curriculum. And the same thing I say to them all the time, that I will answer this question. What is Joshua's biggest issue? Joshua's biggest issue is all about game planning, strategy. I said it with Deontay Wilder's pre-fight post. If you go back and listen to what I said at the end of the video, I spoke my prediction. I don't just say who's going to win and lose. I tell you exactly how they're going to lose because I understand their efficiencies and their deficiencies. And I knew that he, with all of that pad work and all of that raw, at the end of the game, he was going to come up short because he's never laid out the strategy that it takes to beat a guy who's coming forward, a guy who's 40 pounds heavier, stronger in most of the lights. But you got to understand how to strategically plan. And basically, it's all on your playlist. And on this pad is the playlist on how to deal with styles and scenarios. So what happens is the coaches, they start putting together all of this stuff that seems cool, but they're overlooking, like I said the other week, they having problem with the electronical systems in their cars. And what's happening is they're going straight to the mechanic, and the mechanic's like, well, yeah, it's your transmission, it's your engine. But the whole while, it's a fuse, a 37-cent fuse. But they ended up spending $1,300. Why? Because if you put your hypothesis to a problem that's not even a problem, it's an already laid out solution. Once again, whenever you are going into fight planning, the first thing you match up is the styles. So that's the biggest problem with my man Joshua. Only the styles, because styles make fights. You got to know what to do against a pressure fighter. Period. If you don't understand what to do against a pressure fighter, and then you start trying all this stuff, all you're doing is digging your hole deeper and putting up a more valiant effort just to get wanged harder, because there's strategies when it comes down to fighting a person who comes into the ring to take your head off. If he's slicker, you got to know how to punch to his chest, corner, shoulders, pec area, body. You got to know how to mix those things up. And if you don't, you'll be trying to say, you'll hear coaches say, throw more jabs. Throw more jabs. How? This is the thing. When a fighter hears that, his second thought is, how? But most of the time, fighters don't even know how to really ask how, because there's a guilt that he should already know. And he doesn't say anything and goes out there and gets exposed. And that's kind of what it is in a fight game. That's what you're dealing with. Thanks, Curtis. Kurt Thomas School of Boxing. It's facts. That's what it is, man. And As long as that is your MO, as that's your scenario, you're going to always find fighters who talk a lot of stuff during the press conference, during the weigh-ins, and then when it's fight night, they're always coming up short. And it's just like this with Joshua. His first loss, it was all about strategy. Don't bang with a better banger, a guy with more experience and has knockout power. And he just knocked out a 6'7" fighter. And then you get in the ring and then you exchange with him. You got to stay on an angle. You got to keep them turning. And yes, it's not going to be fun for the fans, but the bottom line is what you're trying to do is you're trying to win the fight. Look good the next time. Get a guy that you can do that against. But when you're in there against someone who had over 150 amateur fights, who celebrated and his heritage, he's carrying his country on his back, you got to be careful, man, because Andy Ruiz brings the smoke. And the second time with Usyk, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you don't understand how to fight a slick fighter with great footwork, you're going to be in trouble. And if you need to learn and you want to learn, you know where to sign up for us. And so you'll learn through taking workshops with us. Other than that, man, you'll just constantly be. And there's guys out there who are professional coaches who are just professional coaches by proximity. They lived in the right place, and then the right fighter walked in. All right. Fury had a lot of problems beating Wilder. Usyk's a much more decorated boxer. Can Fury beat him? D23 Wade, man, yes, he can beat him, but once again, what do you do when you fight a slippery boxer? A boxer that's slick, a boxer that's quick on his feet, a boxer that's going to move faster than you. Because Tyson Fury is a big dude with good footwork, but as of late, he hasn't been using footwork. He's been walking forward. And I think that's because he's tired of being the guy who's moving all the time, and he's the biggest guy in the ring. So strategy is everything. If not, he's going to look like a big goofus doofus. If you go in there and you try to chase that dude down, you're going to get picked apart, swollen up, and the ill effects of that Deontay Wilder being in the ring with him for nearly 30 rounds will start to show up. That's what happens. You don't see it now. It's when you get in there against somebody, when you start to show being battle tested. So yeah, he can win, but strategy is everything. That's why he got with Sugar Hill. Sugar Hill is a teacher, but at the same time, there are things that have not been tested in his skill set bag. And when you got somebody who understands boxing in and out, top to bottom, like master boxing, then that fighter is always on the way to your door to knock on your door and steal all your jewelry. Next question. I wish Wilder would have used his advantages, fought small like a small fighter, moved a lot. That's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful approach and stance, Bobby Aday. Another school of boxing, educated coach on the rise, coming to take all of these guys. I'm going to be dumping guys in y'all camps when y'all get set up, man. Everybody that's in the school, because like I said, I'm out of the business of training fighters, but I'm not out of the business of training the trainers, because that's the business that I'm in, because I have to make sure that there are more teachers than there are guys with towels over their shoulders calling themselves trainers. And that's exactly what we're here to do at Master Boxing. Top Trainer U. Holler at your boy. That is spot on. He should have been moving, fighting like a smaller fighter, working off of his back foot, walking Fury into punches, and you guys would have been having a parade in Alabama for sure. But the wrong strategy always looks so great up until the fight begins, and then you gas out trying to bulk up. You didn't need to add a pound or any strength. Well, you got to be strong, so you got to do the real things. You got to chop wood, sling boulders, pull bales of hay, push, hurdle, get cow. do things, manly duties to build up the dexterity of the body. Bone density is built up through weight training and muscles, but so is lactic acid and all of that muscles, oxygen sucking elements that go into it. So you got to be careful when you are talking about educating yourself to be a trainer. We're going into some serious stuff when it comes down to our training. Let me see. Let's see. Ed Cow. If Canelo fight Amir Khan, I think Amir gonna win this. Are you? Well, I can't even respond to that. But you know, um, styles make fights. If you don't have the right style, you better have a right strategist. And my guys in the school of boxing, they're strategic guys. They're learning, and trust me, when you lack footwork and gas, you you going down pretty quick. Yeah, for the most part, uh, I think conditioning played a part too, because Wilder was dead out there and Fury was still fresh. Okay, so Dan, thanks again for that statement. Well, conditioning only came into play because he had the wrong game plan. So if he had the right game plan, conditioning wouldn't have been the fact, because he wouldn't have been touched enough, or he wouldn't have dumped out too much energy, because fighting the way that Bobby Ade just said, special shouts, preserves your energy, preserves your tank, maximizes your longevity over 12 round and 15 round and 26 round fights, because fighters who fought in those eras that those were the characteristics of the rounds, they understand how to do it. Most of those guys, and I mean all of them, they knew how to use the entire ring. We call the geography of the boxing ring, knowing how to go lateral, knowing how to fight off your front foot, knowing how to fight off your back foot, understanding the concepts of ring generalship. In boxing, you have to learn an entirely different vocabulary. And the difference between a casual fan and a diehard fan is maybe 30 words. The difference between a diehard fan and a trainer is maybe 150 words. The difference between a trainer and a professor is 1,000 words. That's the difference, the vocabulary, the understanding of how to take a skill, technique into a skill, and a skill into sets, and understanding how to develop a fighter over a period of time and mold his style into a craft. And then he develops into several points that I'm going to get into later on in the next couple of minutes. So, great questions, great statement. But that's what happens when you only understand boxing from the parameter, because oxygen only happened because he had the wrong game plan in camp, building up muscle, lifting 300 pounds on the bench, maxing out, going into a fight against a 280-pound man almost. Look, that's the wrong game plan. Boxing is a science. It's about hitting and not getting hit, not trading punches. That's for people who are in the street, not people who are aficionados. Or that's why you got to have and hire aficionado for your corner, so they understand strategy, and you won't waste 8 weeks or 10 weeks of your life training the wrong way. Kind of what Anthony Joshua's done. Exact same thing Deontay Wilder has done. It'll be great if they fought each other. Both of them have horrible strategies. They do. And that's not being funny. It's the honest truth. And I must say this because I'm positive Anthony Joshua read one of my comments after one of my posts. And like I said, I never mean to offend or hurt fighters, but I call it as I see it. He was dominated. The parts of the fight he was losing, he was dominated. And I wrote it and he saw it. And I guess he decided, I'm not, his friend in boxing, and he caught feelings, and an Instagram feeling and stopped following. So, you know, that's what it is. Fighters don't want to hear the truth. But guess what? Then he goes and try to jump into the circle. I was tagged today in a post by one of the guys who left a question, and it was like he's picking up Ronnie Shields for his corner. Ronnie Shields knows how to take a guy and build him, and I mean, and from a certain point develop him. I never seen him teach a mastery his science of footwork, but I know my mentor's mentor did in Coach Kenny Adams. He showed and taught punching off angles. That was part of his teaching. Like no other coach do I see doing that. And that's a part of their system. And it goes a step further because you got to know the geography of footwork, period, before you even start talking that stuff. So, with that being said, I don't know if Ronnie Shields will fix it. He said he wants Shields to bring the dog out of him. But the dog coming out of you does not help you with a scientist in the ring. Usyk is a science. He's a ring general. He's a masterful artist of footwork and boxing. That's the scariest man in the world. I don't care how mad you get. Joe Frazier will try to take Muhammad Ali's head off, and Muhammad Ali still thought he won the first fight, but he definitely won the second two, the last two. And that's because you're dealing with a masterful footwork artist. In boxing, you don't box with your hands, you box with your feet. And that's exactly what Muhammad Ali does. And that's exactly what, did. And that's exactly what Usyk does now. And he's going to do the exact same thing to you again. If you go in there thinking it's about being a dog, man, that's the definition of boxing. Taking what a person does or want to do to you and turning it on them and taking what they do best away from them. Now, let's see how you can fight and bark and bite with your hands cuffed. It's different, man. This is boxing. Master boxing. Let me see. Let me see what you say. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, wasted efforts, wasted energy. And I knew it when I saw the camp. I knew the first time, the second fight, when they fought the second time, he was going to, because I saw him up at 2 a.m. doing mitts live on YouTube. He was gassed out and still had the wrong strategy, because power don't beget power. In boxing, it might do that in weightlifting, bodybuilding, but it doesn't. I built the system in weight training to develop you. Let me get to the next question, because this stuff is fire. Caleb Plant has skills, coach. Is he good enough to beat Canelo in a 12-round fight? Lebo 44. No. Skills pay the bills until you get to the highest level, which Canelo is. And where people don't understand is what we teach our guys is to understand when you learn boxing, you must know technique. So I'm going to break this down for you, and I want you to have a takeaway. And if you understand it, like the post. That's all I ask that you do, because I'm going to drop pearls, and this will be something that you can put in your duffel bag, whether it's a Louis Vuitton or if you got it from Big Lots. I don't know. I truly don't care. I just want you to use it and don't abuse it, because I'm about to drop these pearls on you, and only the real fight doctor can give you this in its suitcase. When you take skills, technique, you teach a guy, and these are trainers. You teach them technique, you teach him a skill, and then he has to get skills and learn how to put them together in sets. And then he understands that concept. And then from that point, he can get in there and box against better boxers, because he's developing the concept. He's starting to understand. And then you go into your theory of this boxing. You can now, instead of always hear the information, you can begin writing and guiding yourself in moments of confusion or moments of dismay. From that point, now you're in a position that it's time to take it to the next level. You're developing the styles because now you have the concept, you understand theory, and now you're putting it together and you're adding wrinkles after you develop that style. You fight in a style. It's the John Doe style. That's his method. Like the Eric Bradley method. It's a system of fighting, knowing how to take styles and utilizing them in postures in boxing instead of depending only on the Philly shell or only on the cutie style or only on the peekaboo or only as a classic boxer or mid-range European stylistic or Cuban boxing. I know how to use what's necessary in whatever spots are required. So that makes it a style for me. I built a system. Now I'm comfortable enough to become cagey with it because it's in my muscle memory. It's embedded. So not only do I do it, but now I have added wrinkles onto my style. The muscle memory has been embedded, and now I'm cagey. Canelo had skills, he could pay bills, and then he fought Floyd. After he fought Floyd, he understood the other four layers: concept, theory, styles, and then he cemented it with adding wrinkles. And now he understands how to be cagey with it. This thing is about levels. Caleb Plant has not fought anyone who's graduated to cagey. Does that make sense? Because that's who he's facing. Because Canelo got his PhD from Floyd, and now he's cagey with it. He can fight anything you bring. He can defend, he can counter, he can attack any style because there's a great chance that you're not embedded with muscle memory with the style. You're still figuring it out. You're figuring out if you're going to be the guy all the way. You can get to that title. The difference is you got to fight the other guys that are the best. And they have reached that level like Evander Holyfield, who were able to beat men that's 45 pounds bigger than him because he was cagey. The white Muhammad Cowie, if you know about boxing, you know about the Camden Buzz Saw. The white Muhammad Cowie. That's Qawi. Pull him up. He bumped with the greatest. 5'6" light heavyweight. Gave Holyfield HELL. And trust me, many other brothers got it. The Bozak is all he was handing out, and all he knew how to pack up and bring was smoke. And that's the Camden Buzzsaw. He was cagey in it. So y'all got to understand, I don't care how much fandom you got and how much you love and hope Canelo won't win this fight or whatever. He's my favorite person in the boxing game because he's the only person that I can identify with and understanding that his level. All these other guys are hoping that they are what they think they are, and even including the guys that are tonight. Floyd knew, he understood his. Pac-Man, he constantly was a stylistic guy, and he constantly understood how to use his style. But one thing he never done, he never used his body inside and tangle with guys and got cagey. He was cagey in his own way with his footwork. He was pop, 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 but he was all offense. But cagey is doing all these other little things with your elbows, your shoulders, hips, head, knowing how to tuck, knowing how to dirty box inside, knowing how to take what they doing away, locking them up, like all these different arm bars and just different tactics that you're so comfortable with that boxing is like street fighting to you now. And that's the difference between a guy who's cagey and a guy who's figuring out, am I going to be that good? And Andre Ward understands this. Another guy who was cagey was Andre Ward. He was a dog in that ring. 32-0. Come on. Like undefeated, gold medal Olympian, defying all the odds. I don't know if you guys know that the guy that he fought in the gold medal, silver medal round was 6'6". The gold medal. Yeah, 6'6". He's 6 foot even. The dude hadn't lost in 5 years. Like that's what cagey can do. He was cagey as an amateur, which you will never see that unless you're looking at the likes of Sweet Pea, guys who were the same style when they was amateur than they was pro, and that never happens. Pretty Boy Floyd even turned into Money Mayweather. He's walking guys down at the end of his career. So B Hop, guys who are cagey, you can't. All these guys, Archie the old mongoose, because mongooses are cagey. And he has the most knockouts than any man on the face of the planet. Salute. That's boxing, man. That's where Canelo is. It ain't got nothing to do with who you like. The reality is, if Caleb Plant beats somebody who's already at the pinnacle of highest level, what that says about him is a real thing. And this isn't a personal choice. This is what I understand about the dictionary of boxing. There are levels to it. People say it, but they don't know. But I just laid them out in an umbrella format. So imagine the literature that's behind what I just explained to you. You got to learn boxing. If you don't have a mentor that's 130 years old, there's no way you're going to understand boxing at that level. You got to walk that out. You got to talk that out. You got to be able to have conversations with the ghosts of old. You cannot have that kind of IQ because everybody keeps it locked, sealed, and deliver it only to whoever they're ordaining. That's why there were no more teachers in the early, all the way to the mid 2000s, because the secret boxes were locked. The codes were not giving away, and all of the teachers were dying. Emmanuel Stewart was the last of those Mohicans. And I don't know. See, a teacher is a person that you can see in the corner, a professor, a legendary mind. Emmanuel Stewart could change and adapt in a fight, in a round. I don't know any coach that has adjusted in the round. They typically just have the better fighter. And I'm not knocking anybody. I just understand how scarce true boxing knowledge is. And it's scarce. And I had the privilege of being in a downline of two monsters, legends. And it fell in my lap, but I already had that. I had that stuff. I just needed the briefcase and the keys. Period. So what beats Canelo if skills don't? Because Floyd's skills and IQ beat Canelo, and Canelo hasn't fought that style since. Well, he fought 2 fights after. I mean, fights after that, he fought Aris Laura, a bigger version of Floyd, who was as nasty as Floyd, southpaw, that could have given him the decision. But he didn't win. You got to have quick feet. You got to have a sturdy chin and a dense body, the dexterity. Here are the things you're not going to hear when you're listening to YouTube. The dexterity of the body has to be developed in a way that when you take punches and bang punches, you don't need weight training to deflect them. So from the inner core out, you have to be developed. Then you have to have reflexes. So you got to have reflex training, because you're going to have to get in a position where you are in the belly of the beast, and you got to know how to deflect elbows. 5 layers of defense. Pull it up on YouTube. 5 layers of defense. That's my video. I'm telling you specific things like that. The style of the person who stands in front of you can't be someone that got question marks or not knowing if they are going to be a legend. You know you are. There's very few fighters that know that right now. Even Tank was in his last fight. He was like against Barrios, and he was like, I was nervous all the way to like the eighth, ninth round. You know, he was like, yo, because the dude he was strong, can hit, he's big. So I was careful. People who've done it at a high level and seen it and trained and been in the circles, you understand the difference when it comes down to levels and people talking. You got to hear people talk because they got microphones. Everybody get a microphone today. They know it. But you know, we're doing a nice rendition of education. So when you see these guys like Canelo, he can be beat. It's just no guys right now that you see that have the recipe already. That doesn't mean he ain't in a position that he has a good, like, just say for instance, if Callum Smith, a guy who has the frame to give Canelo problems, understands how to use it and can keep Canelo off, but Canelo is cagey. So if you go back and look at fighters like Dwight Muhammad Cowie, Eric Morales, Eric Morales is cagey. He knows how to fade punches. And that's what we teach in the Peekaboo program, the volume 2, where you have to put a punch where the guy think is coming and is going somewhere else. If you go watch Eric Morales videos, yo, you can't defend his offense. That's cagey. All right. And that's what I was saying about Pacquiao. He's cagey with his punches, but not with his physicality. He never imposed his body on a person. That's just wasn't his style. But it's required at certain levels because it would have been the difference. Because if he was shorter and he could use his leverage, his base to really give guys problems, he could have won all of those fights that he didn't come out as a victor. But yeah, so Caleb Plant might need a fight, or he might need a real loss. And if Canelo rematches him after the fight, that could be the lesson he needed. Because when it comes down to losing, so what beats Canelo if skills don't? Because Floyd, I just seen that, beat Canelo and hasn't fought yet. Yeah, I just read that one. Indeed. Indeed, this Canelo has gigabits of boxing muscle memory. Yeah, gigabytes of muscle memory and tools in the bag. Yeah, and he thought he was already at that level when he got to Floyd, and Floyd just explained inside of the ring that you're not at this level. And I know what you're missing, and I'm going to get you, and I'm going to be gone and have you on my record. And that's what you got to do whenever you are cagey. You understand how to pick fights cagily. But everybody out here understands boxing, but nobody understands boxing. They really don't. They think they're coaches that have been awarded coach of the trainer of the year, who I know if we sat across from each other and I threw out scenarios that they couldn't answer the questions. They just have great fighters. Guy who can come in the gym and he was just a lion. Pacquiao was a lion. Didn't matter who trained him. Trying to tell me the sidestep was the angst of his career? Absolutely not. That drop and roll that he was doing, he would have figured that out because he's already boxing in a peekaboo style. You know why? Because Freddie Roach was training Mike Tyson prior to that, and James Toney. Because when fighters get older, they start bouncing around the gym. So that's kind of what we are always facing. But we put a cap on this thing when it comes down those guys who talk about strategy. I'm watching guys with belts lose their belts because they don't have a corner that can make adjustments. But Emmanuel Stewart made adjustments in fights all of these guys, it's so few that can do it. It's so few that can do it on the drop of a hat. And that's what I'm training the trainers in the school of boxing to be able to understand. And they got to take workshops. You got to understand. There's certain things hard to teach, but that's one thing that you just won't be able to teach easily. But tonight, who wins and why? Stevenson versus Herring. Everybody out there, I want to see your predictions. And I'm going to tell you once again who I know will win. But this is a fight that nobody has the muscle memory of craft. This is my craft. Shakur Stevenson has it more. And because he's fought in that same style. He's just learned how to sit down more on his punches and become more of a fighter. Because in the pros, you got to be a fighter. But he understands how to get in, get out, bounce in, box when necessary, win ugly, but just win. He's still in the phase where he's wanting to win every round. He thinks he's going to just be able to continue to do that. But once his body fills out and he has to go up to 140 and 147, all of that winning every round stuff is going out the door. And you got to learn how to win 7 rounds to 5. One judge has it a draw. 115, 113 for the other guy. 115, 113, you. 114, 114, even a draw. You fight boring, and that's how it'll end up, in a draw. So you just got to be ready, man. So tonight, I see a couple of predictions. Let me see who you got. Stevenson's going to win via TKO. And what makes you say that, Level Sports? Why will he win by KO? Because he is not knocking anybody out by KO. And I'm going to give you a couple of facts. When you look at Jamal Herring, he's bigger, a lot bigger. 2, he's a Marine, so he's tougher, intestinal fortitude. 3, this fight means more to him than people think because it's immense. He said, if I beat this guy, this means everything that I've done was because I belong in this sport at this level. It's hard to make a man lose that mentality in the ring, especially when he's coming down in weight and he spars Terrence Crawford because Bo Mack is his trainer. So you got to consider all of the facts. Don says he thinks Stevenson's going to get the win. He's a younger guy with more power and better skills. And of course, an attribute answer. So this alludes this conversation. This leads me to a conversation. Boxing has nothing to do with attributes at the end of the day when you're at a certain level. It matters when you're first fighting guys, an amateur, and they don't understand. They don't know how to overcome. They don't know how to be, they get overwhelmed by scenarios. But when speed and power go out the door when you're fighting Bernard Hopkins, speed and power go out the door when you're fighting Willie Pep, speed and power go out the door when you're fighting Archie Moore, speed and power go out the door when you're fighting James Lights Out Tony. All right. So never use speed and power in youth. It's irrelevant because all those guys were champions for years and years, beating much faster, much more athletic, much larger men consistently. Don't forget it. Holyfield fought Riddick Bowe at 250 pounds, and he was 205. Second time, he was 217, blowed up. He was probably 202 when he got out of the ring. He probably lost 15 pounds in the ring and won. Bowe was 40 pounds his senior. Size, strength, Speed is irrelevant when you're in the ring against a scientist. But thanks for your answer. You think Stevenson's going to be taken to school? He's too smart a boxer to just be taken to school, but he hasn't even learned how to lose a round yet. He's hardly even lost a round in boxing. He's going to find a way to do what he needs to do, which is find a way to win this fight, just like Devin Haney did against his last fight. And it's coming to me. I'm losing train of thought because this didn't even come into my mind. Haney versus his last fight, you guys know, and he got buzzed late. But when you're in there against veterans, that's what happens. Let me see. I got to pull it up. Yeah, Jorge Linares. Thanks for as soon as I picked up my pad, it was gonna pop in. What's up, my man? What you need? And just so you guys know, over on YouTube, my man, What You Need, has been down with me from day one. He was one of my day one subscribers over on YouTube. Now we 25,000 deep over there, 26, what 27? Who can even keep count? Because over here on Facebook, I got 230,000 beautiful followers who really, really support boxing, who really appreciate the knowledge, the power, and I hope are utilizing what they're learning, because this isn't just some channel where you're talking boxing. This is class, and it's in session, because this program is the school of boxing, and all we do is boxing for real. So I told wifey that all the stuff these guys are going through and experiencing now, I experienced that before social media. By the time social media came around, it was done. By the time it came around good, my life in that world was over. All these guys now are new, all these trainers and these coaches. If I was in the era now, training and doing the camps and stuff, like, oh my gosh, I'd be the most sought after. I'm sought after now. But the thing about it is, what I understand about boxing, and I love to see trainers learning, man, but I want them to learn more. And I hope a lot of those guys are really continually getting the education, because there's so much that you got to learn, but it becomes so simple when you understand it. And I understand it. And I thank God for the mentors, but I thank God for the DNA he gave me, because mentors can only give you so much. It's who you are and what God gave you from the beginning, what's inside, that intestinal fortitude, the liver, the lungs, the heart, the mind, the total cachet. All of that stuff comes into play. He just made my bowl of cereal full of Lucky Charms, and I understand a lot more than most people I ever sat across from. And for that, I thank you, because I'm a giver by nature. So I give to you all hundreds and hundreds of videos on a constant. They go out. I don't do skill videos. I don't post skill videos anymore. I, I post about the education, and it's a reason why, because you're running away with that stuff and getting carried away and don't understand the how, when, why. So you, in order to do that, you have to be under the tutelage to learn it. And that's what these other guys are doing. That's why these guys are the gyms you're going to be going to. And if you're a coach, your fighter's going to be leaving those guys to go to them, because people understand when they see someone who truly gets it and understands how to make adjustment inside of the ring. That's kind of it, man. I'm about to get locked and loaded. My big day's coming up next week, and I'm about to enjoy some fights. If you all have anything, if you all want to take time to watch the fight later on, leave on the page, leave a comment. That you don't, I'm leaving a link for people who will not be able to watch the fight to go over into StreamYard through a link only for those who are in the School of Boxing. Now, don't get it twisted. And I want you all to be able to watch it and stuff. Now, I won't be there, but you will have access to watch the stream of the fight. Same thing every week. That's one of the perks that comes with being a member in the School of Boxing. You get to watch fights, no matter what fight it is. That's all I got for right now. Continue blessings to you guys. Special shouts out to my brothers in the School of Boxing. I see you guys next week. Enjoy the fights. We will be getting it cracking on Wednesday as normal, our Q&A. So have your questions ready. Jot them down throughout the week. For those who inquire about the School of Boxing, make sure you reach out to us on the website or leave a message on the page. And we got you covered. Until next time, continued blessings. We out. Peace.